Thank you for listening to another episode of the Business of Fun podcast. I am your host, Dave Wakeman. My guest today, I think he's a four-timer, is Simon Severino, and we are talking about this idea that I saw him post on his LinkedIn a few weeks back about an $80,000 webinar, and I thought that might apply and be helpful for everybody, so we're going to walk through what that process looks like. So it's a great episode. Before I talk to you about Simon, though, I want to talk to you for just a second. Remind you to check out my website. It's davewakeman.com. You can get all the newsletters, updates, blog posts, everything there. Everything goes through the website. There's all kinds of exciting things coming in the next couple weeks. I will be visiting Europe in June and July again. The dates and locations are still a little bit up in the air, but I do believe I will be in London for a few days. I think I'm going to be in Berlin for a few days. But I'll let you know. Make sure you share this podcast with friends and share the Talking Tickets newsletter with colleagues, friends, people who will benefit from it. These are all great things. But I really need your help today, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to dig deep into the world of ticketing on the Business of Fun a little bit more. I have kind of gone with a little bit broad with strategy and branding. Not that those things aren't important and not going to be helpful, like we're going to hear with Simon here in a few minutes. But what I want to do is I want to get back to a little bit of the basics and have some strategy and branding conversations that specifically relate to the world of entertainment and tickets. I have a little idea in my head, but what I want to know is, who do you want to hear from? So send me an email, my name, Dave, at davewakeman.com, and let me know who you most like to hear from. I'll do my best to get people on. Okay, so back to Simon. Simon Severino is from Strategy Sprints. He is a great guest. He's very engaging, super awesome. This is the fourth time he's been here. But he had this thing he posted on LinkedIn about an $80,000 webinar. And I thought about how you could apply that no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. So I wanted to have him come on the podcast and talk about it. So we talk about the process of picking the topic, of filling the webinar, of running the webinar, and selling the webinar. He does it in a unique way. He also gives us some tips on how to use AI to make headlines stronger, make the content pop more, as tools for promotion. This is really actionable. It's really great. I think you're going to enjoy it. And I think no matter what, even if you run a team or a museum, do Broadway shows, whatever it is, this is applicable. I think you just have to be a little creative with it. So here's my conversation with Simon Severino on the Business of Fun.
Check. 1 million, 2 million.
Here we go. Now we are starting. 2 million. Yeah, there we go. So I want to welcome back my good friend Simon Severino to the Business of Fun podcast. Simon, how are you?
Dave, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. It's good to see you again. It's been a little bit of time. I had been meaning to catch up with you anyway. And I was like, well, why don't we just do a podcast? That was even it's always good because then I get a chance to talk to you about you and the ninjas beforehand, and then we provide something useful for the listeners. And today, I wanted to start by asking you about this thing I saw on LinkedIn recently. I think you called it the 80K webinar. I may have it wrong, but it was a really cool idea, and it was a really cool execution. And I thought that might be helpful for people. So can you explain it to us a little bit?
Yes, happy to explain. It's a web made $83,000, and I share it with the community because many people right now are thinking, oh my God, this marketing thing sucks. I don't want to send cold emails to people that I don't know. I don't want to call people that I don't know. What's a way that's authentic, that doesn't cost a leg, that is low risk, and where I can show my expertise and give them some form of taster. We will talk about the taster concept. When you go to the supermarket and there is a new cheese, they give you a piece of the cheese and you taste it before you buy it. And you taste most of us would love to have that taster, but don't have the taster. And so a webinar can be a low risk, very impactful way to market. And it can also be one form of a taster for the people that follow you. And so I started sharing how I do my monthly webinars. And now some of our clients, they went from monthly to weekly and they're crushing it. Like we have one client that does a webinar every Thursday. But the process is the same, how to fill a webinar. And we can go from beginning to end, right? How do you pick the right topic for a webinar? How do you fill it? How do you run it? And how do you sell from the webinar? And I call it the 80K webinar method because the last one made 83K, and I publicly shared with the Spring Club how we did it.
Well, let me start. So I think the fill it, pick it, run it, sell it idea. That's great. We'll do that. But the first thing I want to do is I want or for anybody who sells experience or a service that's and I know that like probably the obvious answers are like if you're selling and again this is like I don't know actually. I just think about it, like home repair or things of that nature, yard grooming and things like this. Is there any limit to who can use this strategy?
Good question. I mean, we coach only like 4, 5, 6 kind of industries and businesses, and most of them are calendar-based, service-based businesses. So they are calendar-driven. They want to get to see people, build relationship. I think the webinar format works with everybody who solves a problem in a transformative way. So a problem that, for example, it's well for everybody who's in the advisory, consulting, agency kind of sector. If it's high ticket, it works well for financial advisors. It works well for consultants, for agencies, everywhere where there is a big problem in front of a person and they want to find out, okay, I have multiple options, but who can I actually trust? Let me go for 1 hour to their live workshop because I get a feeling for if I like them, if I can trust them, if I want to see them every week, if I want to send over $25,000 or not.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so then let's talk about how do you fill the thing? Like, how do you pick the idea? I guess I jumped ahead of myself. So how do you pick the idea? We have to pick the idea before we can fill it.
Yeah, let's start at the very
I gave
beginning.
you one good question, and then I ruined it the rest of the way. That's it. One good question.
No, it's exactly how you start. You think about what is one problem that is relevant to my people, to the people that I'm here to serve, and they are looking for a solution to a part of it. So, for example, we picked the sales problem. We are here to serve entrepreneurs to accelerate their sales. That's our mission. That's what we do. But now sales is too big. You have to break it down. Okay, what problems do people have in sales? One problem is it takes them too many calls to close a deal. They don't want to have like 8 calls to close a deal and then maybe it doesn't even close. So one problem is how can I shorten my sales time? How can I close in less calls? And so one webinar that we picked was how to close in 2 calls. You break it down into one tangible part, something that can actually be solved in 60 minutes. Our workshop are 60 minutes. And then you can bring together 20, 30, 40 people and select one of them and do it live in front of the others. So how do you pick the problem? First of all, you listen to the comments that you get, the emails that you get, the questions that people ask you in a Zoom call. That's the very first source of inspiration. For example, the last months, everybody has been asking us about lead gen. And so, okay, now this lead gen will become a webinar because they're asking so much about this. It's clear. So the comments in your YouTube, in your Amazon, in your Google Maps, wherever you get comments, right, on X, on LinkedIn, what they're asking you in person, what they're asking you via email. If you are just starting out and you don't have already people asking you, or if you're entering a new, completely new industry where you are not deeply immersed in, this is where to use AI. And for example, I use Claude a lot.
Yeah.
And I say, read all Amazon reviews about this product and tell me what people are looking for, but they are frustrated that they're not getting. How are they typing it in? And then I go to YouTube in an incognito browser. So I go to Chrome browser, I click incognito mode, I go to YouTube and I start typing in the first words and see how it completes the sentence. Because then I know, oh, this is what people are looking for. These are some ways you can come up with the topic.
Yeah, no, those are good. I find Claude to be very helpful as well because it will use the internet for it, or at least this is the way I've viewed it. So that seems helpful. All right, then I understand how to pick it, right? And it's great, knowing like you get that real time feedback, and so you don't, because I think probably part of the problem that people encounter is they're afraid to that they won't have the right idea. Right, which I think you and I both have probably dealt with that before because we didn't have a system refined for how we're discovering ideas. So then, how do you fill it, right? Because that's the thing you don't want to talk like to people. Your example, I think you said you had lots of people, and I regularly do them, and I have 50 or 60 people.
Yes. So next step is you need a headline and 3 fascinations. Because in order to fill it, you need a great movie poster. In the end, it's a movie poster. It's a headline. It's 3 fascinations and the thumbnail. So an image. This is the next step. So let's look at these 3 things. How do you create a great headline? Again, what I do is I go to Claude and say, you are David Ogilvy and Rick Rubin, and you are discussing with me what's the best headline for this topic. And then we start discussing, and Rick Rubin says something, oh no, that's not groovy enough, let's do this. And so now you have Ogilvy, Rick Rubin, and me discussing until we find something that really excites us and is short enough. I want 2-3 words because we want to make them big on the thumbnail. So we think about the visual a lot. And also the visual appeal of those 2-3 words, because if it's 8 words, it's really hard to read. Imagine on LinkedIn, you see an image and it has 8 words. It hits you different than it has just if it has 3 words. So those are the details that we obsess about. Headline, few words, strong words that pull you in, emotional. Think like an ad of Ogilvy, something that really pulls you in. Then the 3 fascinations are the 3 reasons why you should join that workshop. We call it a workshop, by the way, not a webinar, because the word webinar has been misused so much. You think you go to a presentation, right? Nobody needs a presentation. I would never go to a presentation. I would only go to something which is live, which is more like a workshop, where nobody's trying to sell me something, but actually to help me. And if they help me, maybe later I buy. But if they want to sell me something, I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
So we call it a workshop. Sometimes we call it a masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
You can call it an executive briefing rather than a webinar. And the 3 fascinations are the 3 reasons why people should come. I like the structure of saying you will have, you will know, you will feel. Those are my 3 fascinations. For example, hey, so in 2 weeks we have the delegation masterclass coming up. And so we say, hey, and it's 2 words, delegation masterclass.
Mm-hmm.
That's the headline. And the three fascinations, I don't know them top of my mind, but it's something like, hey, come to the delegation masterclass. You will know exactly the two things to do so that you can delegate two tasks. During the workshop, you will learn to delegate two tasks, so you will know which two tasks to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
You will have a clear plan on how to delegate them, and you will feel very relieved because this will have shaved off a few hours from your week immediately. So now you have know, have, and feel.
Yep.
You're covering all bases. And those are the three fascinations. Again, then I go to Claude and say, okay, and now you are, insert your favorite marketeer in here, criticize it, make it better. And then we do a few rounds together. We spar it until it hits. And then it's the visual. You create a visual. When I create a thumbnail, I think like a movie poster. Would you go to the movies by seeing that poster? So it must be emotional. Again, a few words, something emotional, something human, something interesting. It must be interesting. I think this is the best way to do marketing anyways. What's great marketing? Make something interesting.
Give you anything you don't want, sell you anything you don't want or need anyway.
Yes. So the visual will try to make it interesting. And then we're ready for next stage, which is promotion stage. Now
Yeah.
We pick a date. We personally, we need 3 weeks to fill it because we have a specific way of filling it with 3 partners that fill it. So they send 2 emails each. And that's why it's monthly, because it takes us 3 weeks and a little buffer to fill it. And then we're ready. So we pick a date, we publish it. First, we publish it in our that's the Spring Club community. And so we publish it there. First, people come from there. And then we ask 3 partners that we have lined up, strategic partners, right? People that we have worked together for a long time. We trust them. We want them to succeed. They want us to succeed. We trust them with our reputation. They send 2 emails each. And so now it's 6 emails. And that fills the event.
And that's okay. So that's pretty simple. Let me follow up with you because you said you use Claude. So not Claus. It's not Christmas. Can't talk about Santa Claus. Claude. In the first part, you started with David Ogilvy and Rick Rubin, right? And you brainstorm your headline. Is it always David Ogilvy and Rick Rubin, or do you change those people you work with?
Them up. Those are my current favorites.
Okay.
If I find people that are even more interesting, then I'll switch them up. For example, there's this guy. He was the coach. Well, yes, for headlines, I usually use David Ogilvy, and sometimes I use Rory Sutherland.
Yep. Yeah.
Because these guys, they crush it with headlines. And then sometimes I mix it up with Rick Rubin because he's just a wild card.
Yeah.
And he's very visceral. He has such a tangible language and he's very visceral. So for headlines and for copy, I usually use these 3. For more business related things, I sometimes say there is this $1 billion coach that was the coach of Apple for a while. I insert that one, or Jay Abraham, who was my mentor, is now my partner. We're running a mastermind together. What would Jay Abraham say if I can't get him on the phone? Because I can always get him on the phone. And so sometimes I say, Claude, what would Jay Abraham say?
And then you also talked about having your favorite marketer. Kind of shoot down some of your ideas about your fascinations.
Yeah.
And who do you use there?
Oh, it's the same. So I come up with the fascination, and then I say, okay, now criticize this from the perspective of David Ogilvy. How would he criticize this? If I show this to David Ogilvy, what's his critique?
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I have that gives me a great ideas to play with. I want people to like totally like rip me up on these things because it's I find that Claude is very good for this kind of brainstorming. So so now I've got this new idea. So thank you for that. All right. So
Yes,
then,
you
how
can
do we?
create your little Parthenon of your favorite people and start engaging with them. That's the beauty of this thing.
Yeah, that's where I found the best is like I have a I'll use it kind of like I'll tell you, I want you to coach me like this person, and then I'll work through the
Yeah.
thing. And I think where people fall down on using AI is like they want it just to be able to plug in. But AI is great because it's like you have all this information from all these different people and places and things that just help you push your thinking further. At least that's the way I use it. So this is like, seeing how you use it helps me a lot. So I guess we'll move on to step three then. And how do you run this? What do you do?
Yeah. So you pick the topic, and inside of the topic, you pick one sub problem. So one part problem. For example, I picked delegation. And so delegation is too big. You have to break it down and say, okay, the goal is you will identify 2 tasks that you hate doing, that you want to get rid of. Or maybe you are mediocre, but it's not your zone of genius. You shouldn't be doing it. And those 2 tasks we will actually learn to delegate during the event. So the process is, what's one problem that is so big that it's relevant enough for them to come, but so small that you can actually solve it in 50 minutes? That's the work in preparation of a workshop. And that's the hard part. Again, you can brainstorm it with AI, but this is the actual work. Okay, what can I do in 50 minutes? Can I help them save money? Can I help them identify how to optimize their taxes? Can I teach them how to sell options? What can I do in 50 minutes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And because you are the expert, you will find something that's small enough, that works in front of other people, and that becomes your taster. They taste your magic, the transformation that happens when they open up and go vulnerable, and you help them.
Yeah. And do you pick one person or one specific person to walk them through? Or do you pick, keep it general? How does that work?
Yeah, I pick a real person. So in the beginning, we have a few rounds of warming up and some questions. And from the chat, I start to get a feeling for my favorite 4 or 5 people. And when I say favorite, I mean their energy, right? The words that they use. And if they are in the moment ready to do something courageous, because it takes courage to open up in front of a group, right? And there are usually just 4 or 5 that are in that mood.
Yeah.
And when I get the feeling, okay, and then I ask them what the problem is, and then I pick one of those, and we do it live, 10 to 20 minutes of actually solving the problem, and then summarizing, pointing to who we are, because I didn't even start with who we are. We start with the problem, solving the problem, and then in the end, by the way, this is what I do, this is where you can find me, and this is the next step.
Okay, that makes sense. That's like you just lead with people. And I was curious because I think one of the things that people struggle with when they think about these things is, how do you plan it out and how do you, make it work? How do you make it interesting? And if I'm saying like people, I'm saying me sometimes, right? It's because one of the challenges I think people deal with in the webinars is like you're talking into a void. Like it's easy to do a podcast, or it's easy to coach somebody through a solution when you're talking to them directly. But planning out like what, kind of narrowing it down, those 4 or 5 things that like are most important, it can be a little bit challenging. So understanding that you actually kind of paper over and figure out what people are dealing with, that's helpful for me. And I'm sure it's for everybody that's listening, because that's a lot more interactive, number one, which makes it, to me, more fun. It also makes it more likely to be useful because you hear, you're really reacting and responding to somebody's real problem and not just a theoretical set of problems that you might see from a group of people. So that is very, very helpful. And at the end, after you've like announced the people, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is how you find me. Do you have also open it up for Q&As, or is there other ways like to keep people engaged? Is there anything like that, or is it just like we solve the problem, I say goodbye, I'm out?
Yes, so Q&A happens all the time because I continuously ask questions in the beginning, and then during the solve the problem part, we involve everybody. So I bring in perspectives. We do some breakout groups in groups of 3, where each group works on one aspect of that question. So it's very, very interactive. They get to ask the questions all the time. The chat is on all the time and is very active, and everybody gets to speak. I think the best workshop is when everybody gets to speak, and one person or 2 people can go really, really deep into solving a problem. We call it a prototype. Instead of talking about things, we do it. So if they say, oh, my problem is my website, it doesn't convert, then I say, okay, should we work on your website? And we will actually attack the copy of that website. So in those 10 minutes, we improve the copy, we improve the flow, the contrast of the buttons, and actually work on refining that website. That for me has the highest energy in a workshop. There's a problem that is relevant to everyone, and we just start doing it. The opposite would be telling about a framework. Talking about a framework, for me, nothing more boring than that, right? I can Google a framework. So that's not why I go to a webinar. Let's do it together. Show me how you do it. Let me see and taste the magic that happens when you start cranking. Yeah.
And so the final stage 4, is like you sell out of these things, right? Which is obviously interesting to me. How does that work? Because this way it's set up is so that it's not pushy, not salesy, right? It's not threatening. You're not giving people anything that they can't apply already, right? Instant value, which I think is probably about the best way you can offer people things like this at all possible. How does it work for you? Because how do you turn this group of people into get them into the sales funnel, I guess is the easiest way.
Yes, you can do it multiple ways. You can do it soft. In the end, you point them towards, okay, who is interested in knowing more about this or exploring working together? And then you can ask them, give me an M in the chat if you want to talk via email. Give me a B if you want to book a time with me. And now you get, 10 people showing their interest. And you will follow up with those 10. You can put your calendar link into the chat immediately they book their time. If you're selling something, you can sell it now. The last 5 minutes, you put up a slide. Let's say you're selling a course out of that. So many of our clients, they sell in the last 5 minutes a course about that. That's around $200. Because it's a way to get going. So they slip this in. Now they sell, let's say, 20 courses at $200 from there. And with the course, they have their email address, and so an email drip campaign starts. And we love email drip campaigns because we have found a way. That's maybe a topic for the next podcast. We found a way to have an open rate of 77% on all emails for months, and a click rate of 23%. So that's amazing. And with that, we call it an RBS, a relationship building sequence. Okay. Because it's more than a new 3 days. It really works you. And it creates a ton of value, and it gets people who are not booked on your calendar. It gets them onto your calendar.
Yeah.
And so a combination of selling a low ticket item like a course is what many of our clients like to do. For example, Casey, he runs a trading academy. His webinar is every Thursday Thursday about how to use options to generate income and maybe replace your paycheck, right? To make this a full income. And so what he will do is he does some live trading. He shows the method, he shows some results from the community, then he does some live trading in that Thursday. He puts up a weekly option from Thursday to Thursday. And then in the end, he said, by the way, if you want to learn options, here is my course, and they buy the course immediately. Or if you want more bespoke one-on-one, here, call to action, link to calendar.
Okay. And I think the relationship building sequence in the email campaign, that's definitely a topic I think people would be totally into. And it's amazing to hear 77% open rate and 23% click-through rate, because I tell people that these 2 to 3% open rates that they get are nonsense. They're awful. And then they're like, well, what do you get? And I go, well, I mean, my newsletter gets about between 48 and 50% open rate. And then my click-through rate is probably, depending on how many links I put in the email, it's 12 to 15%, depending on yeah. And I was like, just imagine if you just doubled, from like, you had 2, you got 4. I mean, and really all you have to do is just make the thing a little bit more useful, a little more engaging, as opposed to just blasting stuff out that is nonsense. So I think we'll have to schedule that one like pretty soon, because I know people are going to dig that one. So this is great. So you're able to turn this thing in. And I think you broke down the numbers, how you got to 81, 85. Was it 80? It's 81,000, I think was what we called it today. But it was 83,000, I think was the real number.
83,000. Yeah. Because working with us is around 9,000 a month, and we sold 3 sprints. So a sprint is a 90 days sales optimization where we optimize the whole sales process from the beginning, from filling the pipeline to closing to retaining. And we optimize each part, and that's 9,000 a month. And so of these 10 people who said, I'm interested, 3 of them bought in the same week.
Oh, that's good. Okay, so one final question, and then we can plug some stuff too, because this is like we're getting in and out today. This is good. How many people? What's the minimum number of people you'll host one of these master classes or workshops for? Because I know one of the things that people struggle with is like, well, what's a good return on investment for my time? And and I'd say I don't do these things. I usually have to have a floor of about 12. I mean, I'll go big, but like as long as I have a dozen people, I'm cool.
That's a great question that many people have. What's the minimum? Now, when I was doing my first webinars, I had 3 people, 5 people, 10 people. And I always did them because I was prepared anyways, and I had it scheduled anyways. And so I always did them. I never canceled one because it wasn't enough people. Yeah. And you know what? That's funny. The 2 best webinars were one with 5 and one with 1 person. Those 2 were actually the best ones. That one with 5, I was like, should I cancel it? And I still did it because it was raining, so I had nothing better to do.
Yeah.
I still did it.
Your planning's like mine.
Yeah.
It's raining. Screw it. I'm staying.
Yeah, screw it. It's more fun to do it with 5 people than to go do something else when it's raining. And so I said, okay, let's do it. I did it with 5 people. And the amazing thing is you're familiar with the Dream 100 method, where you literally manifest your favorite clients and favorite partners, right? So the number 1 on my Dream 100 was Google. And obviously I never got a meeting with Google. But guess who was in those 5?
Google.
Google was in there. And in 5 minutes after the workshop, they go, Simon, can I ask you something? We are working right now with another consultancy, and you are much more agile. We need something agile. You work in sprints of 7 days. They work in like monthly sprints. Is it okay for you if I propose to my boss that we switch consultancies? And I said, dude, you are on my Dream 100 list. You're number one on the Dream 100 list. That's what I'm dreaming of. Yes, please do it. How can I help you? And that became a gig.
Yeah. I have I have a similar story, right? I kept a list. I don't know what I did with the list, and and one of those things is like every so often I go back and I think about it and I redo it, and I had and they've been one of my like longest running partners, and it was amazing. So it was, so like this, just knowing who you're talking to or want to talk to and serve, it's a tremendous opportunity for people.
Yeah.
And or having an idea of like the people you want to attract. I mean, that's just like it's super great. Now, before we go, you mentioned strategysprints.com and you talk about how you release things. You open it up to those people first, right? And since the last time we had a chance to talk, you've added a free trial for people. And I wanted to point people towards this because, again, I believe in your method. I read the book. I know you. We talk all regularly. How do people find out about this, and what is this 7-day free trial that you've given people?
Yes, for over 10 years, I was longing to have a free trial, a taster, like in the supermarket. I'm jealous all the time in the supermarket when they say, "Oh, we have a new cheese. Do you want to taste it?" I go, "Oh my God, I would love something like that for my buyers," because they can't just send over $25,000 to work together. They don't know me. They watched 3 YouTube videos, right? How do you make that gap smaller? How do you make it safer for people to buy? I was longing to find an answer to that. I didn't. But then at some point, I said, wait, Simon, the software people do it all the time. 7 days free trial. Why don't you do that?
Yeah.
I only buy software that I can try out for a few days. And I said, okay, let's try that. Let's bring the community instead of in the Slack group that we had. What about I build my own app? It's the same thing. It's our people meeting in one place. But if we have our own app, I can add also the masterclasses, the videos, the next workshops. I can do some quick videos and hellos and answering questions. I can do Q&As whenever I have time. I was okay, let's build our own app. And so over Christmas, we built the app. We launched it in January. And now 217 people are in there. And now people can have a taster. So if they go to strategysprints.com, see this button, it says try it 7 days free. You don't have to trust the guy that you saw 3 times on YouTube. You can now actually click it, spend 6.5 days in my world. You see how I answer questions. If I am a decent person that lets people hang, or if I'm supportive, the quality of my answers, the quality of the tools, the quality of the everything that we do, the quality of the other people that are in there, the quality of the relationships and how we treat each other, if we are supportive and inspiring and professional or not.
Yeah.
And so now people can try it out 6.5 days. And then if it creates a ton of value, they stay.
No, that's great. I would encourage people to check it out. Strategysprints.com. It's 7 days. So even if you take 1 or 2 ideas and you get out of that, then you've like stolen so much value. And again, I think at the start, I ask people or ask you if people from all kinds of industries could use this. And I did that because I knew that the answer was you can apply this idea to any business that you might be in. A lot of the people I work with are, there's a lot of businesses, but there are a lot of sports teams, a lot of arts organizations, a lot of operas, all those things. You can still take something like this. You can come up with a little aspect of what you want to do or what you want people to feel or experience. You can create a little way for people to connect. You can share a little bit of that, and then you can create this funnel, these offers that people can roll right into. The only people hearing this, actually, I think even like if you're doing landscape architecture or house cleaning or any of these service, I think would apply to this because you can teach people some kind of trick or tip or something that will improve their life, right? So I think this model is great.
Yeah, let me give you a cheat sheet how you can use these 6.5 days for
Well,
max
maybe
return.
don't give everybody let me keep this for myself.
I'll tell you. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody.
Yes, exactly. Let's not share.
So you get in, it's strategiesprints.com. You get in, first 3 days, you watch the 5 masterclasses by Jay Abraham. One is with me, 4 it's just him, and he is incredible, and it applies to every business on the planet, because his thing is how you can create strategic partnerships with people that do something different than you. So if you are somebody who sells ads in a sports context, then you can do partnerships with people who send physical goods to the same people. And you can partner with people who do the books, the bookkeeping for the same people. So you can create super PACs, Avenger teams of people creating strategic partnerships. This is just a tiny thing that you will learn in those masterclasses. And then after you've done the masterclasses with Jay Abraham and with me, then I would go to the messaging challenge. It is 14 questions that will improve drastically your positioning and your messaging. So the words that you use, the language that you use on LinkedIn, in emails, etc., because you will have a clearer positioning of who you are and where you can bring people. Mm-hmm. And we know how important messaging is. So if you do these 2 things and then hop off after 6.5 days, I think you will thank me later.
I agree. So Simon, besides strategysprints.com, is there anywhere else we can point people so they can find you or talk to you or engage with you?
Maybe they are readers. There is a book out there on Amazon. It's called Strategy Sprints, 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business. That is a blueprint on how to run a business in the digital age. 1 chapter about marketing, 1 about sales, 1 about hiring, 1 about firing, etc., operations, how to deliver wow moments for your clients. And that book came out in multiple languages. But if you want to grab it, it's everywhere where you buy books. If it's on Amazon, it's Strategy Sprints.
Okay, well, great. Simon, it's always great to talk to you.
Dave, thank you for showing up for your community day in and day out.
I try. But thank you for doing this. I appreciate you. Tell me what you thought of this conversation I just had with Simon Severino by hitting your email application and putting in my name, Dave, at davewakeman.com and letting me know. I thought it was great. I have the notes on my desk so I can actually apply this to my own business. Okay. Let me know also who you would like to hear from. Looking to go deep on strategy and brands in sports and entertainment. So tell me who you'd like me to talk to. Check out my website, davewakeman.com. I will be telling you where I'll be all summer long. Looks like I'm going back to Europe, though. Probably London and Berlin is the early plan. I should have it solidified in the next couple days. As always, do me a favor. Rate the podcast, review it on your favorite podcast platforms, and share it with your friends and colleagues that you know will benefit from conversations like this one with Simon Severino. And as always, I want to thank you for listening and thank you for spending some time with me. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Take it easy.